videos of crazy things, you know?
Shall forbid.
Okay,
Anyway,
good
that's what he's worried
evening.
about, not us.
I would like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone.
Good evening. This meeting is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings adopted at the organizational meeting held January 5th, 2022. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source on December 11th, 2021. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the board office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, Brearley and Harding Schools, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Please rise and join us in the salute to the flag. Mr. Ganella, can we please have roll call?
Minor. Here. David.
Here.
Drogan.
Here.
Haberthur.
Here.
Jankowitz.
Here.
Latani.
Here.
Panici.
Here.
Tiers.
Here.
Zimmerman. We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. We'll now do the receiving of the minutes. Can I please have a motion to accept the minutes from December 13th, 2021?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberthur, seconded by Mr. Jankowitz. All those in favor of receiving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Reading and acceptance of monthly correspondence. Mr. Ganella, do we have any correspondence this evening?
No, we do not.
Okay. Okay. Next up, Superintendents Report and presentations, Mr. Arlington.
Good evening, everybody. I'm excited to kick off our first meeting of the year with some student celebrations. To help recognize several David Brearley Middle School students, I'm happy to welcome and turn the mic over to our Assistant Principal, Ms. Maddie Witchell.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Tonight we are excited to highlight our David Brearley Middle School's Fall Students of the Month. These students represent all things Brearley pride, academic excellence, kindness, and involvement in extracurricular activities. For September, we selected 8th grader Dominic Kondo. Dom's teachers shared that he is an absolute pleasure to have in class. He works tirelessly, advocates for himself, and always strives for improvement. In the first marking period this year, Dom earned straight A's. He is exceptionally polite and works well with his classmates. Congratulations, Dom, for being September's DBMS Student of the Month. In October, we selected 7th grader Caroline Garcia. Her teachers report that Caroline has a positive outlook on learning. Her love for learning can be seen in the care and dedication she puts into each class. Caroline is an active member of the Middle School Newspaper Club. You can check out her articles and photographs in the latest edition. Caroline was also just admitted into the Academy program starting the 22-23 school year. DBMS congratulates Caroline on being our October Student of the Month. Finally, our November Student of the Month is 8th grader Carly Borowick. Carly is part of our David Brearley Scholars Academy program and has earned straight A's in her time so far at Brearley. Carly's teachers shared she is mature, creative, and kind-natured. Carly is always there to lend a helping hand to her peers. As an 8th grader, Carly is a wonderful role model to her classmates, and it is a true example of a Brearley bear. Congratulations, Carly, for being our November Student of the Month.
We're happy, Ms. Witchell, to have your students come up and
Yes.
take a photo with you.
Yes,
Yeah, come on up.
3 of our students come up.
You can take your masks down, too. Congratulations, guys. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you'd like to leave, you certainly may too. Yeah. I'll leave it aside. Thank you, guys. May I, Michelle? Yeah, okay. Good evening, everybody. Given the uptick in COVID cases as a result of the Omicron variant, I thought it would be a beneficial time to remind our school community of our health and wellness protocols and procedures, including some of our continued commitments we make, as well as the latest tweaks in response to COVID to provide for in-person instruction. I'll do that by addressing our mission and beliefs, sharing a sampling of data, outlining our continued commitments, and highlighting our communication efforts. Finally, I'll end by identifying some of our adjusted health and wellness protocols, and then also detail what's on the horizon. In the summer of 2020, 8 committees met to help plan for our return to school the following September. These groups helped to synthesize the mission of responsibly returning all members of our school community to school in a healthy and safe way. And a year and a half later, we continue to anchor to this core mission as a guiding principle. Through those committees, we also identified a system of beliefs that frame our work. Like our reopening mission, decisions around in-person learning and COVID are filtered through considerations related to physical health, our academic program, social and emotional needs, access to technology, and opportunities for students that transcend the school day. We stay true to these beliefs despite some of this data. I thought it was important to give this presentation some quantitative context by sharing some numbers. So I've shared before, but it's worth repeating. It seems like for every person who wants in-person instruction, there's someone who wants virtual instruction. So COVID-related decisions are always made in adherence to the guidance of the NJDOH and local health officers, and they're always made with strong consideration for the data available at the time. While what other districts are doing matters, decisions for Kenilworth are always made with Kenilworth data as the focus. So you'll see since the start of school, we've had 301 reported cases. That's employees and students who shared with us that they were COVID positive. Last week we had about 241 students quarantining, and then 70 students absent at Harding on average, 124 at Brearley, and 50 employees absent last week on average. Monday there were like 70, and then it kind of improved as the week went on. These continued commitments reflect mask wearing and efforts to social distance, particularly around student management. Our buildings and grounds crew continue to follow cleaning and sanitizing standard operating procedures. We also continue to keep on top of HVAC maintenance and filter cleaning and replacements. We sustained some of the same personnel we added last year in response to COVID. So these additions have been critical to keeping us open, and they include an additional nurse, a technology facilitator to assist with curriculum and instruction, and additional mental health supports via our relationship with Rutgers, UBHC, and Tri-County. Most importantly, we continue to modify and refine our practices based on science and data. In response to the rapid shifts we make, I'd like to thank our leadership team, teachers, medical personnel, and parents and students for their nimbleness and ability to so readily and quickly adapt, particularly with weeks like last week. To keep our community dialed into these quickly evolving changes in real time, we continue to commit to communicating in consistent and regular ways. And so as you know, these are the communication vehicles we use. I think it's important to showcase them in a synthesized way here. While we always strive to be high quality communicators, it's equally important for stakeholders to access the information we send. So we share information in all these different venues to make the information hard to miss. However, we also value bi-directional communication too. So as always, I urge parents to share concerns at a first level with the person most able to solve that concern. So we have a communication matrix in place. You'll see here. So we ask you to log on to our website and then onto the Parent Resource tab, then the Communications Protocol tab to access this chart, right? To help you get answers to your questions as quickly as possible.
We made several adjustments in September to our operations and continue to tweak in real time. Much of our efforts have been around building procedures, thinking about student deportment differently, and reimagining space. Particularly at Brearley, further shifts to lunch procedures were recently enacted. Some COVID-related work we're focused on currently includes voluntary COVID testing for students, which will begin this week. We sent out a fact sheet on Friday, and we have a couple hundred students signed up, so we appreciate everyone's patience during this inaugural session while we get our sea legs. Also, the NJDOH recently released guidance on implementing a test-to-stay program. So we're in the exploratory phase of that program right now. A big concern, I'll let you know early on, is whether or not we have the personnel capacity to implement the program with fidelity. We also anticipate greater alignment between the NJDOH guidance for general populations in schools, which reduces isolation and quarantine timeframes to 5 days. And so these new timeframes, as of this morning, don't yet apply to schools, although we're told they soon will. And finally, we're reflecting on and refining in real time several health and wellness protocols, including home instruction and related attendance matters. And if those change, we'll be sure to let you know further details as soon as possible. We'll be posting this, of course, on the website, but Madam President, I'm happy to take questions from the board now.
The 50 employees out in 1 week, is that a norm, or is that, I mean, how much out of line is that, out of the norm?
Yeah, good question. So in December, there were on average about 40 employees out each day. And so that's across all different employee types. So from
Right.
administrators, teachers, paras, custodians. Monday, the first day we were back, and there were 70 employees out. That was a big struggle for us. Yeah.
And how many of the 70 were teachers, actually, do you know, or approximately?
Probably 50 of them. Yeah. It's nearly impossible to get subs. Yeah. So through a lot of flexibility of teachers, through a lot of creative scheduling with the principals, a lot of rejiggering of personnel, they were able to make that happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a couple more slides on an unrelated topic, so I'm just going to switch gears here. Under New Jersey law, school districts are required to annually complete a self-assessment in their harassment, intimidation, and bullying practices and procedures. This next presentation is a fulfillment of that requirement. To start, there are several core elements in which each school must self-assess. They're related to our HIV programs and policies, trainings, curriculum and instruction, personnel, and reporting procedures. In each of the core element areas, there are then sub-indicators. In total, there are 26 sub-indicators. We get to score ourselves on a scale of 0 to 3. A 2 meets standards, and a 3 exceeds those requirements. So of course, we're striving for all 2s and 3s. Our anti-bullying coordinator, our anti-bullying specialists, counselors, and other stakeholders come together to help complete the assessment that we then use as a mechanism for growth and to drive future HIV procedures and actions. The total score that a school can receive on the self-assessment is a 78. When you compare our scores from last year, you'll see growth in both buildings. We should be really proud of that growth, particularly in a pandemic, and the progress that it represents. I'm going to share a little bit about what that growth looks like in the next few slides. So not only are we showing overall growth this year, we've also met or exceeded all indicators and requirements. So much of our social emotional learning work, along with our climate and culture efforts that we've been engaged in, have helped to catalyze this growth, particularly in the areas of programming, interventions, and supports for students, HIV instructional and training programs for administration, staff, and students, reporting procedures, and investigation procedures. So I'm particularly pleased to report that in the last 2 areas here, reporting and investigations, we've really doubled down on our training through the auspices of Vito's office and his colleagues. We've really provided a lot of legal training to our HIV personnel with a focus on ensuring our investigative and reporting procedures are reflective of best practice and the law. Of course, even though we've met or exceeded the indicator standards, we always want to keep an eye on where we can grow, and these areas are those that we might want to focus on or that we will focus on moving forward. So professionally developing staff for a wider understanding of HIV prevention and reporting, doing that by leveraging the work of the school safety and school climate teams. So these teams have been meeting regularly over the last few years, and now we might want to make like a more marked bend towards discussing HIV matters in those sessions. And then also where we've made strides in providing instructional materials to parents, this is still an area where we will want to devote more attention. Here's just some general takeaways from our self-assessment upon which we can reflect. We want to actually use this tool, right? So more than using it as a compliance obligation, we're starting to think about how we use the tool for growth. One way is to review the results with the school safety and climate teams. We also plan to develop a more comprehensive plan for technical assistance for staff, and then continue to enhance student training, differentiated interventions through a lot of different efforts, but you're familiar with me often talking about our multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS, and then also parent education. So once the board approves the score tonight, we are required to post it on our website, so we'll do that, but I'm also happy to take questions now.
Represent, like 2 is meets, 3
Yeah, so 2 is
exceeds.
meets, 3 is exceeds, 1 is doesn't meet. Yeah. So we're striving for all 2s and 3s. Seeing no questions, may I continue? Yeah, okay. In my Friday update, I shared several explanations of board resolutions that I felt needed context. I'd like to add to that list. Under personnel and management, I'd like to wish Deb Volanti well in her retirement. Deb served in the capacity of lunch aide for the past 24 years. That's quite remarkable, so congratulations to Deb. Under curriculum and instruction, resolution 30, this reflects your acceptance to affirm, deny, or modify the November HIV report that I shared with you at our December meeting. At our February meeting, you'll be voting on the results I shared in December. I'm also happy to take any questions on the executive summaries you have before you that reflect the cases from December. So you're seeing those for the first time tonight. None? All right, finally, under finance and facilities, as part of the New Jersey School Boards Association designation of January as School Board Recognition Month, I'd like to extend my appreciation to Kenilworth's 9 board members who spend many hours fulfilling your responsibilities to the district as volunteers. Thank you for your dedication, support, and earnestness in continually focusing on how to advance teaching and learning for the students of Kenilworth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that concludes my report.
Anyone questions for Mr. Arlington? No? Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, now we will have report of committees, review of resolutions, and board discussion. Up first is Finance, Facilities, and Negotiations, Mr. Ladani.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'll give my report first. The annual audit deadline has, for the state has been extended. Again, it's always usually the state just with late calculations. The business administrator, Mr. Ganella, has submitted the AUDSUM, AUDSUM, to the Department of Education. The final audit report is scheduled for submission prior to the extended deadlines. Phase 1 of the budgets are in process of being submitted to Mr. Arlington and Mr. Ganella this week. The administrative review will begin soon, and the committee will meet in February to tackle this and other budget challenges. Mr. Arlington and Mr. Ganella have met with the county's, the executive county superintendent and his team to complete the mid-year budget review. For everybody on the finance committee, get ready for a really busy winter in spring, as we have not only to get the budget ready, but we also have to have several meetings on the referendum. So it's going to be quite a busy, I'm thinking probably at least 3 or 4 additional meetings a month, I'm thinking somewhere around there, to get this all done. Snow removal went well. The team as always does a great job. I don't think we had any overtime for that, right, Vince? That was, it's all Friday, so it was all good, so that's good. The Harding, I don't know if anybody saw the Harding bleachers are in. I don't know if anybody's been in the gym, but the gym looks fabulous. And most of all, it's safer. It's safer, right? It's also safer, so those bleachers kind of were a trap for kids to get hurt on. So I'm glad that's all taken care of. And again, I think next year we had 2023 is the 100th anniversary, right, Vince? So getting the school ready for that, Harding School. So that all helps in getting the school ready for the anniversary. The modular, what we used to call the temporary classrooms, there's a slight delay due to the utility hookups, the PSE&G and the water meters, if I'm not mistaken, right, Vince? Right. Okay. So that's it for the report. Resolutions, 1 through 3 are the standard fare. They include Kyle's report, which was just presented. I reviewed the billing, all the finances, and they all appear to be in order with no outliers. Line items, number 4, there's none that hit over the $5,000 trigger, reporting trigger. I'm just gonna do a few of them here, not all of them. 7 is is busing. It's a $19,000 busing increase for one student, special ed student. And 9 is just a revision to the comprehensive maintenance plan. We had a little, just didn't get, there was just needed to be a correction made to the plan that we had to submit. There was no changes in cost or anything, or the plan. And that's it. Any questions?
With the modular building, how soon before we open it? I know with the delay, obviously.
How long of a
pushes it back.
delay?
We don't expect PSE&G, we expect PSE&G to come through, but the water meter still has not been, they don't even have a ship date for it.
Oh, so it's just a matter of the piece not being
Yeah,
available.
can't do the work really until once PSE&G comes on, we could turn, obviously, the power on, which turns the heat on, which means we could do a lot of the finishing. We can't do a lot of the finishing until there's heat in the building because it's so cold out.
Right.
So that's that little bit of a delay, but we expect that to be done prior to our overall deadline of the end of the month. But the water meter, we do not have a date for that.
It looks great. I mean, even in its almost finished state, it looks great. So.
Yeah, I'm glad, I'm getting some compliments on that, what we did, and I'm glad we just switched it from the original plans of those, like, almost just the trailers on the cars to what we, even though we spent a little bit more money, actually looked like a school and a classroom.
Yeah.
I think the committee did a great job with that, so.
I think you'd be very impressed when we go inside.
Cool.
Paulette, you had a question?
Yeah, on 4, you just, it was the transportation that caused it to go over?
No, not 4, that's 7.
All right, number 4, usually when it's over 15, it used to say $15,000.
5,000. Any transfer over 5,000, we agreed years ago that I would report on any line item transfer that was over $5,000 or over.
But it usually says that in the amendment, the resolution. It did show it previously.
Did it?
It would say over 5,000, because that's what's pulling me. I'm going, wait a minute, this is the second time I mentioned this. Yeah, it would actually show it.
It's never been in the
It's never been in the actual
He's
resolution.
always said it, but it's never been in the wording of the resolution.
I mean, I remember seeing it. I thought whatever. All right.
I always mention in my report.
That it
Paulette,
isn't over $5,000.
No, it has to be $5,000 over. If there's a line item transfer the finance Vince and his team complete, then I would report on that.
All right, I thought it showed it at one point.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And I could get you the information. It's in the packet if you want to see it.
No,
So, I know the finance packet's 220 pages, so.
no, I understand that. Okay,
So-
and then there was, go ahead.
I was going to say, so is what you're saying that the resolution itself is for all line items, some of which may be under 5,000, but we will only report out, or finance will only report out those that are over 5,000?
Over 5,000 within, and it also has to be within that certain category of range. So if it's within maintenance, if it's a shift between one maintenance account to another maintenance account, it's 5,000, we don't.
Right.
That's not required. But if it goes from maintenance to instruction, yes, it is.
All right, but to Paulette's point, that if there are line items that are less than 5,000, then it would make sense to point out in the resolution that these are 5,000. Do you understand what I'm asking?
No.
So there are line items, I'm assuming, that may be under 5,000.
lots.
Yes.
And this resolution would cover those.
Correct.
So why would you put in the resolution the number 5,000 when the resolution itself covers
Oh,
transfers that are,
Correct,
so that was the point I was trying to make.
got it.
Okay.
Only the ones that are over 5,000 are actually communicated
Communicated.
to the board.
Right, explain and communicate. I explain, right.
And
I was
that
just
doesn't
trying to-
happen very often. I mean, I don't,
Yeah, correct.
It happened last month, I think.
Yes.
We had one,
but not that,
but
okay,
it doesn't happen that often now.
okay. And just on 10 and 14, wait, let me just get it, 10 and 12, where you're not getting, you're ready to hire these people for the deaf and stuff, but we're not able to get them, what will happen to these, because that's in their IEP, what will happen in this instance? How are they being served, I guess?
Which one are you
So
talking about?
this is so that they are served.
I can't hear you.
This is so that they are served.
No, I know, but I said that you were, like, you were having trouble getting them to, getting this covered because of the shortages.
Yeah, so these kids will be entitled to back services, right? So if these kids who require services from a teacher of the deaf aren't getting them now, they're gonna get them once these people, once this individual is here, right? It's compensatory, essentially.
No, I know, and it looked like there was a couple that you couldn't get the staff because of shortages and people, whatever the reason.
Yeah, so for 10 and 12, we posted and
That's what I'm saying. So
just
you're,
ignore it.
you hope to get that covered, but in the meantime, what would happen to them if you can't get someone? I mean, or is it just a
we would
hire?
have to think like at another level of creativity. So either outreaching to the jointure, to the commission,
Okay,
we would find some way, but this is the best alternative we have right now. Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ladati? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ladati. Next up, Personnel and Management, Mr. Habecker.
Thank you. 14 resolutions tonight. Resolutions 13 and 14 accept the resignation and retirement respectively of cafeteria aides. Resolution 15 approves the hire of social workers. Resolution 16 is a revised maternity leave. Resolutions 17, 18, 19, and 20 approve the salaries for the 2021-2022 school year for secretary and clerical, paraprofessional, custodial maintenance, and instructional support. Resolution 21 approves additional teaching sections. Resolution 22 approves lead teacher stipends. Resolution 23 approves the reimbursement of tuition fees for Mr. Arlington. Resolution 24 is the retirement payment of unused sick days. Resolution 25 improves home instruction, and I think that's it. No, one more. Resolution 26 is a modification of the paraprofessional aides. That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Habecker?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Jankowicz.
Sure, thank you. Resolution 27 is for curriculum writing staff. Resolution 28 is certain curriculum adoption. 29 is the approval of the self-assessment that Mr. Arlington reviewed with us a short time ago. And then Resolution 30 is the HIB report from November. Any questions?
No? Okay, thank you.
I just have one overall question, maybe not for you, maybe, like, when we're, I mean, do you guys look at exactly what we're teaching, what the books are, and you know, making sure, I don't know how to say it, you know, just make sure we're teaching what's supposed to be taught and not going off on tangents and extremes in our
Yes,
teachings?
yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure kind of, we're keeping an eye on that.
There's a finely nuanced system of checks and balances.
Okay. Thank you.
And isn't that mandated by the state, some of the instruction, or is that strictly for feds? Can you kind of pick what you
So all
want?
the curriculum is aligned to the New Jersey student learning standards that are required, and then within those standards, there are certain additional mandates. So there's a Like the most recent mandates are, there's one around diversity, equity, inclusion. It has to be taught K-12. There's a Holocaust mandate. There's a mandate on LGBTQ plus curriculum inclusion. So there's standards, and then there are mandates on top of those standards. And our guides reflect adherence to those standards and those mandates.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Jankowicz. Anything under old business?
Yes, we had, at the reorganization, we changed what we were going to do, and we eliminated the committee for policy. And it happened very quickly, and you can't even understand, but we're here very clearly tonight, so thank you for that. And it was bothering me because I'm saying I really would like to see, whether it's a new one, revision, or a mandated one, I would really like to see it physically in a paper like it was. And I know Ms. Braun, when she read it, Mrs. Zimmerman had said it's a waste of time. It never took her more than 5 minutes. So I'd just like to either re-look at this, or personally, I want, when there is some kind of a policy, I would like to have it separate from, piled in with whatever else the committees are. That's just what I'm saying. So I'd like to re-look at that, but if that's not the case, I personally will want something separated.
Okay. So re-implementation either of the policy committee or each committee that meets whenever they discuss something policy and we present it, we put
Right.
it as a policy for that committee.
I felt that very informative when we go over, well, this is mandated, and you could get to look at it and go, wait a minute, or you would look at it and you made a new one, or a
just
revision.
Sure, so I understand what you're saying. I think it would be, it's like, forgive this expression, skinning a cat a different way. You're actually in this new construct, as I understand it, getting the same exact information. The only difference is it would be shared by the committee chair people instead of Mrs. Braun. But I don't think you would receive less information, and I know you wouldn't receive less information than you received in the old construct. It's just now, instead of it coming monthly solely from one person, it would come from Mr. Jankowicz, Mr. Hibither, Mr. Ladati.
I understood that, except that
So
if
what's
it's
the
under
difference?
something else, many times if you're not on that committee, like what goes on in finance is like something we will all never know. And you come here and it's kind of quick and we decide, we don't really have a chance to pull something out and say, well, let's discuss this. You come to the group, you say, we all agreed on, and sometimes things get buried in whatever chairperson, whatever committee it is. So that was helpful to me and maybe the general public that might be interested, to just have that separated in case there's questions. That's all I'm saying.
For you, sure.
When
So
I
just so
rethought that, I
understand.
just said, you know what, this is going to get buried in whatever committee it is. It might be brought up or not. That's my feeling. It's bothering me. And first of all, it probably shouldn't have even come up at a reorganization. And then after it was done, I'm going, wait a minute. First we were going to do this, and then we made a change because it was all a little bit
So
rushed.
just so I may ferret out the concern, in the old construct last year, were you satisfied with the amount of information you had?
Yes, and
It will be
sometimes I would question it more. I mean, I would talk to
Sure.
her. It was just clearer. It was right there, and this is mandated, so this is going to go into a curriculum, or this was new, or a revision, that's all. It was separated, and
So it would be
Well,
essentially the same.
Yeah, I don't, instead of seeing it under the policy committee on the agenda, there'd be a separate resolution under finance or curriculum instruction or personnel that would pertain to those. Those committees would get those specific updates, and it would be the responsibility of those committee chairpersons to provide the summary to the full board at the evening of the Board of Education meeting. So just like Janine reported out to you that evening on what the changes are, the only difference is Mr. Ladati, Mr. Haberther, or Mr. Jankowicz would be providing that information. It gives the ability for the committee to review it prior as a committee because it has relevance to that committee. In fact, you're on, which committee are you on? You're on the
Personnel.
Personnel Committee. So you will, as the Personnel Committee, will receive anything that is related to the
I
Personnel
understand
Committee
that.
well prior to the board meeting to enable for you to review that as that. So you're actually going to have more information because
On
you're on the
that
Personnel
committee.
Committee.
Can I make a compromise suggestion? So what if we continue for myself, Ryan, who's ever the heads of the committees, report out on the policies, but then have it split out as the last three resolution, or just have the policies all like 27, 28, 29, where, so Paulette could actually see them split out exactly what they are, instead of being buried in 30
Thank you.
financial things, they're just added to the bottom, and then, do you know what I'm saying? They're split out, so they're just additional resolutions on their policy, but the committees just explain what they are during their report.
Yeah, I mean, the way I.
So it's just the same thing, except I'm doing it, Ryan's doing it, Mark's doing it.
Yeah, we could do it that way.
I mean, that's simple, and that kind of satisfies,
That's fine.
compromise what Paulette wants to do, right?
I mean,
Yes.
that's a little, I mean, I don't think we would need to do that. I think you just put make it the last.
Last
The
resolution,
last
so-
resolution under each section.
So yours would be
Put it in a
number
different color.
13 this month. If there's a
Okay, that's
policy.
fine too, okay.
And you could identify it and just say
Just
policies
identify
per
policy on top of
committee.
it?
It would specifically say policy revisions. I mean, we're not changing anything, we're still voting on the policies, it's just how they're being, put on the agenda and how they're being communicated to the board versus one person and one resolution. It could be three people reporting it with three resolutions. Most of the time, it's not. It's going to be, most of the time, it's going to be one, because finance, there aren't that many, and personnel, there aren't. It's going to be mostly one or the other.
Well,
But maybe putting it at the end like you recommended and just having it say policy at the very end makes it more accessible, right? You could do that, right? Everybody's okay with that, right?
Clarify that again?
What you said and what Ryan and Mark mentioned and Anthony, just putting the policies at the end.
That would be
In
helpful.
one
Then
area
then
that
it's
says
separated.
policy, so it's more easily identifiable when it's read.
Like that,
Okay.
the last one's for you, your section. That's fine.
If
Just
that's
I'd like to
okay
have
with
it separated
everybody?
to-
Everybody's okay with that, or? Okay. Does anybody want to entertain to go back to the old way, or everybody's fine with doing this and just putting it at the end?
obviously, it's more work for the chair people, but that's okay. That's another,
With what?
don't worry,
I'm fine with doing more work to make you.
Ryan, Mark, you're okay with that?
Thank you.
Okay, fine, okay. So that's good, Paulette, so we're agreed that that's where we're gonna list it? Okay, wonderful. Anybody else under old business? Okay, new business? Okay, we just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year. At this point, we're gonna open the meeting to the public. Is there a motion to open the meeting to a public? Okay, was that Mr. Haberther?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and second, motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. David. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Vince?
Motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mr. Ladati. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, meeting is now closed to the public. Mr. Ganella, are we prepared to vote on resolutions?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Okay, there are 30 resolutions on this evening's agenda. So this is for resolutions 1 through 30. Do any need to be voted on separately?
Yes, number 28, resolution 28.
Okay, resolution number 28 will be voted on separately. Okay. This is for resolutions 1 through 30, excluding number 28. Biner.
yes.
David.
Yes.
Drogan.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Jankowicz.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. This is for resolution number 28 on the agenda. Biner.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Drogan.
No.
Haberther.
Yes.
Jankowicz.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, is there a need to go into closed executive session?
Nope.
Okay, at this point. since we-
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn, do we have a second? Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mr. Haberthor. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.